Ready?
Yes, we are good.
Conversations with Aldershot is a project led by me, Susan Merrick, with the support of Candice Camacho, who is the community facilitator of the project and also my collaborator in the artistic performance.
Hi, my name is Candice. I am the community facilitator and a collaborating artist for the Conversations with the Aldershot project.
We started the project in September 2020 when I received a grant from Arts Council England with the aim to produce a small archive of experiences from Aldershot around the lockdown and the pandemic. Our aim was to capture people's experiences and how people have coped over this time. We formed a small group of local women who all wanted to share their voices and have their voices heard around their experiences of the pandemic. And we met weekly on Zoom to do workshops, to chat, to come together. And in those sessions, we had 3 other artists come and join us. Louise Jordan, who came to do singer-songwriting, Anis Jocelyn, who did DIY filmmaking, and Amanda Holiday, who did poetry and writing. This was wonderful having the other artists come in as well. It inspired the group to have a look at art they may never have seen before and to have a go at doing something they definitely hadn't done before as well. We were all really excited to try something new and to find different ways that we could, working at home, find to share our experience of lockdown. Why did you want to be involved in the project, Mel?
I live on my own with my daughter, so for me it became something I really looked forward to, knowing that there was a group of adults that we could be really honest about the way that we felt.
I wanted to be involved in the project because I felt like it was a great opportunity to speak for some hidden voices in our community. I feel like it was an opportunity to meet new people and to hear everyone's experiences. It was a whole new sort of situation for everyone, and I just wanted to find out how people were coping, and I wanted to find out the positive experiences as well, because we've heard so many negative experiences, and I wanted to feel, how people pull together and the positive things that came out of it.
I got interested immediately because I feel like lockdown was something that we've never seen before, but it's something that's affected everyone. And so just to get the stories out there was a really nice idea. And being Muslim, I just felt that especially Muslim women's voices aren't heard as much. So I was really keen from the start that I want to be involved in this.
I got involved with the project because poetry is something that really interests me. And I like to express my thoughts and feelings into words. And if it rhymes, it rhymes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But just get things down on paper and express them the best way I can.
Everyone's experience of lockdown has been different, but as a group, we were all women, we were all mothers, and our differences didn't divide us, they actually brought us together by sharing these experiences and sharing these creative ways that we were going to be able to talk about them and look at them.
The group was absolutely lovely. They were so supportive and listened to each other, and it just helped me to try new things with the artwork. Zoom was a really nice way to get started, especially during that time when we couldn't meet. And I think we got to know each other quite well, meeting weekly. So when we actually met face to face, it was really nice. It was very familiar, like we were meeting friends again.
In the beginning, I think we were all a little bit guarded, and what do we think the answer should be? Like, are we supposed to be really happy about it, or is it okay that we're really sad about it? And I think as it went on, people became their authentic self and said exactly how it felt for them. For me personally, I loved it. That's not to say that there weren't challenges, but the most important thing for the project for me was the fact that I'm not very artistic, and so to be able to have these other artists come in, it was really cool to learn about the work that they naturally do anyway, and to try and get a foot in that door almost, and be able to turn an experience into a tangible thing was really precious to me.
I decided to create my film based on my own experience and the fact that I struggled quite a lot, especially with the first lockdown. It was my experience of doubting myself as a mother and a partner, and feeling like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Maybe feeling like I was comparing myself as well to other mums and what I thought they were doing. But then realizing that actually no one really knew what to do in the situation, and we were all just taking it day by day. So I just wanted to sort of convey my experience and share that if there are any other mothers that are feeling this way, then I think it was absolutely normal too. So.
The sofa has done me no justice, but I'm here, a constant beam of support, offering joy and nourishment, granting permission, bending, stretching, adapting. I question how durable I am, and just when I feel I am full to capacity, I expand a little more and a little more.
I decided on a poem because I felt that I wanted to take it from my child's perspective. It was great that we had our project and that we were able to give and get from each other, but I just had this lingering thought about, well, what about the children? Are they as okay as they're telling us that they're okay? Is it healthy that they're spending large proportions of their day on PlayStation games and stuff like that? Is there other stuff that we could and should be doing with them within the confines of staying at home? So I loved the project. I'm actually really sad the project's finished. I feel like it brought out a side of me that I didn't know was there, that I am more creative than I realised, and I had sort of my favourites out of the artists, and it was really interesting because the thing I picked was the thing that I felt that I was the least confident in. I've never written a poem in my life, nothing like it.
So normally I'm a writer, and that's the way that I just convey how I feel. But working with the artists that came and taught us things in the group, I produced a video piece and a sound piece. And I just used photos because we used photos with my family just to remain connected during lockdown and to share special occasions like Eid and birthdays. And so we put those together, myself and my daughter, who helped with the technical aspect, put them together with sounds which just even now remind me of lockdown, like the Skype tone, for instance, or birdsong, which was really strong in those early days of lockdown. My sound piece is called Locked Down Mind, and I used phrases and things that I'd said to the family or things that I'd thought through lockdown and put it together with the sounds that reminded me of lockdown. And at times it was calm, and at other times it was a very loud mix of different sounds. And just reflecting on that time, especially early lockdown, it's kind of like how I was feeling inside. It got overwhelming at times, but other times it was just very calm and peaceful.
But we'll be okay. We always are. When it hits, we forget the world outside. as our world becomes the walls of our home.
The Lockdown Blues. Yeah, it was a poem I wrote about all the frustration and anguish as lockdown sort of kicked in, and all the rules that went with it, what we were allowed to do and what we weren't allowed to do. And I decided that I wanted to get this down on paper, and it just shows and reveals all the frustration and anguish everybody was feeling at the time, but also how we've got to be more understanding and compassionate to others during the lockdown and even beyond that.
My own work in the project, as well as being the project lead, which is a really important part of my artistic practice, has been usually performative and mostly to camera. I have a piece called Fragile, which I did with Candice Camacho. Candice and I worked together to perform in municipal gardens. We're wearing coveralls and all of the PPE equipment, and we remove these items to camera. Alongside this filmed performance, we have the voices of all of us in the Zoom group, reflecting on thoughts that we had over and over again as we were coming out of lockdown, what we were looking forward to, things we were hoping to do. So this film kind of captures those thoughts as well as sounds that we captured over that time. One of the other pieces of work, which you can actually see behind me, is the lamppost banners. Again, Candice Camacho and I, we did a performance walk wearing full PPE through and around the town, taking photographs as we went. This acted as a performative way to engage with some of the public and talk to people about their own experiences, as people were wondering what we were doing. So it was a great way to get people to say hello and have a chat with us, safely, of course. These images we then placed with text. The text is, each text is a positive message that we collected from our online survey, something that people wanted to share with the community to help lift spirits. These lamppost banners were then placed in the town centre of Aldershot, and they were there from February until June 2021. The other piece of work that I have in the exhibition is the black and white photographs, which I call reflections, metaphorical and literal. These were taken during July of this year when I was really thinking about the project, what we'd achieved, and also what we were hoping to achieve over the next year. So it was a very reflective period. But it was also a time when we were really thinking about what we've gone through and what's yet to come, you know, as we come out of the lockdowns and restrictions and get back to some form of normality. So I was thinking about reflections, and I started looking everywhere I went in reflections in windows and puddles, and I started photographing some of them. The ones here are all photographs of puddles found in and around Aldershot. So it's, again, looking at our town, but from different perspectives that you might not think to look.
I came to see this piece of artwork because I volunteered at the West End Centre, and I see a lot of exhibitions, and I was really curious about the Conversations for Aldershot because I'd seen the first part of it, which was here a couple of years ago, and also I wanted to see what other people's experiences of lockdown was. You know, and it was interesting because normally when we have an exhibition, it's normally one person, but actually this was a lot of people's voices telling a story about something, you know, quite, you know, life-changing event for people. So I found that very interesting. And as I kind of got in here and got to see it, you know, I became more interested, you know, as the days have gone on to see what, you know, to kind of really kind of sit and watch the videos and look at the artwork and all the bits and pieces, you know, and it was really kind of, I found it very interesting to be able to, and lucky to be able to share this space and come in here and look at all this stuff. The video pieces in particular, especially kind of Candice's piece, which was very moving, and every time I see it, it's not just once when I see it, but every time I see it, it moves me in a different way every time, because I think there's a bit at the end which I won't spoil for people, but there's a particular line which comes up, and then it's sort of, then you realise how difficult it was for people, and how people struggled and lost people, and I found that was probably the most profound piece here.
Don't get me wrong, it's not all bad. There's days that feel amazing, deeper connections and binding in our own little kingdom that can't be penetrated by any outside source. A bond fused so tightly through such extreme circumstances that has now become unbreakable.
Over the past year, as well as running the Zoom sessions, we've had an online survey going, and Candice Camacho and I have been engaging with the community to find out other experiences, thoughts and comments of lockdown. It hasn't just been restricted to the group that we're working within. In doing this, we've collected over 70 different comments and thoughts, stories and experiences of lockdown from across the community. This is really important because it's allowed us to capture this time from our town. We don't want it to stop here. We want to continue on for at least another year in order to keep gathering stories and experiences, not to have a huge amount, but to have a representative amount of stories, to make sure we've gathered experiences from across the range of our community. Once we've done that, we have the hope of creating a publication. In this way, the work that we make over the time, as well as a publication, can become an archive for the town that is kept within the town, whether it's in the library or the museum or both. This also means that the community can reflect on this time and keep going back to this archive and remember the good and the bad of what has happened during this time and how we've all helped each other through.
I love history and just researching history and seeing source material. So it feels like projects like this can go a long way towards teaching future generations what lockdown was really like, especially for ordinary people, because you have newspapers and things that teach you what it was like, just technically like the news. But this is how it was like for ordinary people and how they felt, the emotions. So I hope it can go towards that.
But I'm really proud of what we achieved. Because I don't think any of us thought that we would be able to produce something as good as this. Because it looks as if almost proper artists could have done it.
I think the project has achieved, within the group of women that were working together, it provided a safe space for us to share. And we started to bond over this experience, and it gave us these really amazing tools to be able to write or film and photography. And it was just such a great space to learn as well. Within the community, I felt like it was a way for people to have an outlet of their experience and to vocalize what they weren't able to in a normal situation. I mean, nobody really wants to sort of moan to strangers, for example, but I feel like we gave people an outlet to share.
A very profound experience, more profound and more deep than I'd ever imagined to feel seeing this. I think it's because it's a universal story told by different people, from different people's perspectives.